you. I'd like to ask you some questions, starting with, does life have stages?
Yes, life has its own stages. I mean, you can impose stages on life, but life does work in its own stages. You know, you have childhood, I mean, the obvious stages. You have your birth stage, infant stage, and you have your self-identity stage, 70, so on. Things I've discussed in the past with people, 14 years old, you have adolescent stage, you know, pre-adult stage, and then you have your adult stage. And you have various other stages, various other cycles or phases you can go through. It doesn't mean everybody's going to go through them. In other words, there is a progression that is imposed on, I say, the lifetime by certain systems. See? And these may be useful, but they don't always apply to everybody. So we were speaking in vague generalities. There's a mental age, there's a spiritual age, and there's a physical age. There may be an emotional age. So when you factor all these things into consideration, then it becomes very difficult to consider where and what stage a person is on or should be working towards. On the other hand, apart from something that is set up on the basis of expectations, practice, spiritual practice, helps you to create your own stage. We call it the stage of practice. See? And then from there, practice unfolds itself, like life in a way unfolds itself. Practice as a certain kind of imposition of sorts, or an openness to it. It's an imposition, but it's an openness. It's almost like an imposed openness beyond the appearances of life and stages, and start to, instead of at a horizontal level of life unfoldment, start to examine, because the horizontal level itself does not promise inquiry or insight or, let's say, inner vision. So here you create an opportunity, despite life's stages, at the horizontal level. Again, based upon karmic expectation, based upon karmic effort, karmic accomplishments, and so on and so forth. Then we have, let's say, the possibility of starting to go inside and approach life from the inside rather than the outside and expectation according to some system. So we have then an inner system, but you have to create it, because it may not be yours to discover or use based upon your karma. Your karma may have nothing to do with that. But if you become aware of it, then you have to take the time and create the conditions by which you're able to prove to yourself you have an inner vision and an inner life as such, a life of a mystic, and seeing things for real from a different vantage point. That you prove to yourself is for real. Not because science says it, because this is science. It's called the inner science. See? You have a material science, doesn't go there. It's a shameful thing if you go into the mystical from that viewpoint, or the divinely intuitive from that viewpoint. Good question.
So does spiritual practice represent or create a liberation from the stages of life?
No, I think a cooperation with certain stages of life in terms of the natural growth process of the human being. So it's a way of actually the spiritual practice neutralizes your reactions and resistances, your neurosis about life, which you inherited. It's not like you created, so it's not really yours to begin with. See, it belongs to your ancestry. It's passed on. The burden, their burden, is pushed on to the children and the grandchildren. See, what the ancestors did not realize or enlighten themselves about, then is pushed on. All those questions, all that darkness and ignorance is pushed on to the children. And then they carry it, and they think that's who they are, which is a profound error. So if you have an opportunity to go into practice based upon, let's say, the value of the inner life and the inner vision, which is not secret, it's really an enlightenment or an ensoundment based upon my teachings, my experience, my realizations. It's an ensoundment vision. So it's seeing and knowing by hearing. And when you compare, let's say, the great music of Elvis Presley to the great music of John Coltrane, you hear Elvis's vision, and then you hear Coltrane's vision, which is more cosmic. Elvis's vision is more personal, more human. more vulnerable. John Coltrane's vision, we're talking about the warrior vision, which is what I'm related to or practicing in my own way. Then we're talking about cosmic energies, cosmic events, cosmic processes, and bringing that to music, bringing that intelligence, like astrophysics, to music. See, what you see as an astrophysician, we're talking about, and dealing with in terms of understanding those energies and processes, we're bringing that to the music. Yeah. We're seeing nebulas and playing nebulas and feeling psychic participation in nebulization. See, realization. So again, it's inner vision, which, as far as the natives are concerned, is really the norm. That's the bottom line. And whereas in the West, where you have the arrogant, the pompous, and the egomaniacs, the egocentric peeps, right? They want to just dominate everything and everybody. Not everybody, but those types. They don't want to hear about the inner vision. They don't believe the inner vision because the egotism keeps them away from accessing and realizing that for themselves. But that's not true of everybody, but it's true for a lot of people who are prejudiced against the spiritual, the mystical, the sacred in a manner of speaking, or the divine, which they have no access to. It's just a word for them. But for the more sensitive, it is reality. It's not a concept. The concept is after the fact of understanding the reality of it.
So correspondingly, are there stages to practice, and do they relate to the stages of life?
Well, once you're practicing, then you don't depart from the stages of life. Your body and your mind unfold. There's no stopping that, except by extreme neurosis and disaster and catastrophe. You know, and injury and tragedy may stop it, you know, cause it to sort of stop in a manner of speaking. But no, the spiritual inner vision makes everything clearer and brings you to a higher level of cooperation. You're already better for beginning your practice in the spiritual sense. And I mean that in the most literal spiritualization, which means the dematerialization process. That means recovering your spiritual nature, your angelic potential, or essence. Which means you're in the world but not of the world. It doesn't bring you down because there's no down when you're already up. See? Angelic means ascended. It doesn't mean gravitated. It means ascended. So then you're in tune with the ascended body or the ascending body, and you can take care of business and do everything from there. So that should be the priority. Right? Spirit first, and all else follows. That's a dictum. Comment.
Does physical illness impact that ability to practice spiritually?
Spiritual illness is the best medicine you can have, and you didn't expect to hear that. That was a boot to you. It's good to be sick. Highly recommend it.
Why?
Well, there's an old saying amongst the sages. When the body's sick, the spirit's strong. When the body's strong, the spirit's weak. You figure that out.
So then does health then equate to materialism?
Health?
Yes.
It can. Yes, health is a form of materialism. Your body's materialism. But because you have appropriate, necessary materialism, means it should be balanced with spiritualism. So balance shouldn't be one more than the other. It has to be a balance. And that's why people suffer, because they're out of balance. People with a lot of money suffering because they're out of balance. People who are very, very spiritual suffer, perhaps, because they're out of balance. So both worlds, the karmic worlds and the non-karmic worlds, the spirit or grace worlds, have to be properly configured so that there's harmony. That takes intelligence and that takes good actions in order to bring that kind of balance into perspective, into reality, into manifestation, to be good karma. So if you're doing good things in a good manner for peeps, then you'll naturally come into alignment with that, because it's based upon a genuine need for the reality of goodness. Need for the reality of goodness, not the theory or thought of goodness, not the word goodness, but the feeling goodness that is beyond qualification and conditions. Real goodness, ongoing goodness. You have to enter the dimension of, let's say, the God state. Have a link with the God state of goodness. See? Not the God state of who knows what, dreams and fantasies and unrealities. The God state of practical goodness, doing good in a sense.
So would that lead then to all physical illness having a spiritual root to it?
Well, you can see it that way, yes. For the spiritual person, sickness is an opportunity to rest and maybe rebuild the body, because the body is subject to other laws. The spiritual body is subject to certain laws. See? Not so much physical laws. It is more or less affected by spiritual laws. So if you get sick, that could affect a certain amount of practice you can do. But then that's at the physical level, but we're not the physical level. We are also the astral level, the causal level, the mental level, the supermental level, and the soul level. And then you have super soul level, then you got super soul level, then you got transcendent levels, and then the super transcendent levels. And you got the divine levels and the super divine levels. So there's a lot of different ways to get around, a bad body, because you're not the bad body. Nobody is that. Your body is not who you are. Body is something you have to put into action, see? And not allow just the river of blood, which is where a lot of people, when the body gets sick, they're waiting for the body to do something about it. No, you have to be in command of it. That's your ship. You have to sail or fly your ship according to spiritual law. Yeah. And then allow it to repair. Sometimes getting out of the body is the best way to repair it. So sometimes sleep handles that. That's why people must sleep, so you can get out of your body and then allow the body to repair itself. See, because the spirit can repair the body better than the self. The self is trying too hard to fix the body to make it look a certain way, and there's no freedom for the spirit. There's no allowance for spirit to come in. And such people who change their bodies to look beautiful are ugly, because they don't believe themselves to be beautiful. They're empowering their ugliness without knowing it. So I'm going to put fake lips on today, because I don't like the way my lips are. So it's a denial and negative, and then you have a fake face. And then you're happy because you have a fake face. So there's no real happiness there, because you know you don't want a fake face. The idea is accept your face as a face. And that's it. Face is great because you have a face. The fact that you can have a face is great. Any face is great if you know how to view it, it says. So then it's a matter of be developed enough to see beyond appearances, so that all things can be seen in their perfection. Things need to be seen in their perfection. That means a little bit more deeply than appearances. The religions don't tell you some of this stuff. You have to go deeper. You have to find living peeps who know what it is that can set you straight. Well, the books don't have everything there is to know. In an infinite life, you need infinite knowledge and knowing. The only way to keep up with that is to have a source of refreshed knowledge and wisdom. Refreshed, not old books. Wisdom peeps look at the old books and they say, well, that's like even pre-kindergarten. That's like for people who are just given the idea of spirit and the idea of God as Lord or something. This is for pre-beginners. We have to understand that on the scale of the universe, where you have beings who are millions of years ahead of the human race. So they can afford to blink in and out of this dimension in their spaceships and freak people out. Freak the poor little children out, these little babies here, called the earth beings. Say, oh, look up in the sky, I've never seen anything like that. My mommy and the school never taught us that. The government doesn't even want to acknowledge these things are happening to us. What kind of nonsense is this?
That kind of suggests that as a species we're in a continual state of ignorance.
Well, we are in a continual state of ignorance and simultaneously a continual state of discovery. Not everybody's spooked out by these things. People with minds, intelligence, genius, imagination, creativity, say, wow, that's far out, blinked in and out. Yeah, I can do that. I want to do that. That's cool. Wow, like science fiction. So we're talking about the potential of human intelligence to embrace the dimensions that are out of our vision, out of our audience. audibility. And this is why having teachers, peeps, natives who are more psychically developed, who can bring the knowledge of these things into words so people start seeing and digging it for what it's worth. See? As well as the sounds of the inner worlds, say that are complex like the spaceships. They leave you confounded, you can't understand it, but you can't say it's garbage because you can't understand it. You can't say it doesn't exist or it's bad or it's ugly. It could be scary. But then let's face it, things that we don't understand, we have to open more to have a better understanding of ourselves. The same with complex music or so not even avant-garde, spiritual music. That means bringing in the interdimensions into the sound. Not for the materialists, they don't want to hear that. See, they're threatened by that because that doesn't make money for the peeps. See, this is spirit talk coming through the music. See, and it's telling you about what's going on. Ordinary music's not telling you what's going on. Ordinary music is telling you, you like what you hear, you can buy what you hear, and make the artist and the producers very happy about it. So that's a very narrow band of materialism. See? That has nothing to do with music, in the cosmic sense. It has nothing to do with interdimensional use of music in the cosmic sense. Like the music of nature, which happens at its own stream, its own level, its own dimension. The music of the birds, the music of the dogs, the music of the cats, the music of the infinite musics for different beings, because different beings have different feelings. We don't have to have science tell us that beings, other creatures, feel. We have to know that because we feel. If we feel, then everything feels relative to its form and knows. Because everything is being breathed by life, force, intelligence. Like the earth is not a dead, inanimate thing. Even the moon, while it sleeps, has a potential of life in its due time. See? Everything has the potential of being seeded and resurrected and destroyed, disintegrated, recreated. That's the marvel of life and the marvel of the spiritual wisdom that helps you to understand the cosmic scene as something that's continual progression of, let's say, being and non-being, movement from one form to another form, and then being all form and no form. Okay? A realization, see? An enlightenment realization that keeps you in peace because you know everything is just okay, it's cool, done, gone.
So it would seem that both comfort and fear inhibit the kind of discovery you're talking about. So would you draw a parallel between comfort and fear? Well,
they're the same thing. Fear is like a response to having your comfort threatened. And comfort then, on the other hand, is to avoid fear and concern. See, so both of them are like forms of ice being frozen. And we have to understand that. It's a comfort zone, it's good, it's comfortable, but there's no growth beyond that in a certain way. So you have to have no comfort zone and have a comfort zone at the same time. So I have a comfort zone, but it's not real. See? So I won't suffer it. That's real. It's just a comfort zone. Let the house burn down, we get another one, create another comfort zone. That's real. But to be tortured over what you lose is not real. Because you're here to lose and give up, that's real. So you're here to die, that's real. So that you can understand life and respect life more, that's real. See, but the forms that are part of the process of sacrifice and appearance and disappearance, that's real, but it's not real. That proves the point that everything appearing is not real because it's going to disappear. It's a paradox. What appears disappears. Maybe it's already disappeared. If you can see what appeared as disappeared, you're on a good ground. It's already disappeared. The appearance then is non-appearance. Very same comment.
So it would seem then that, let's say, spiritual comfort, if such a term exists, is, at odds with material comfort. They more or less can't coexist.
Well, they do coexist. Everything co-emerges. It depends on what you're tuning into. Could be material comfort, could be spiritual comfort. And you can have the best of both of them. It depends on how you understand the nature of things. See? Not moving from one pole to the other, but going down the center and having both poles sort of have their own reality. See? and everything coexisting. Same with the peeps. They have to learn how to coexist and not think that warfare is anything more than a problem. A problem's problem. It's the exacerbation of a problem. So wars is more adding more problem, more gasoline to the fuel problems people have. That means they can't handle the solution. See? And then they revert to destruction. And it's not a solution. It's destruction. And that's the reason why you have to go to destruction is because you haven't used what's in your brains. You got to use what's in your brains and your heart brains. You got to use your heart brains. Say, no, I don't want my people destroyed, and I don't want to have to destroy anybody else, because that's not a good feeling. That's not a good feeling. Who are conquerors? But those who don't care about killing for their own greed and their own self-aggrandizement. They're conquerors. Spiritual peeps can conquer too, but they conquer by bringing everybody to a certain kind of ground level. See? Not beneath them, not above them, but at a place where things are more heart to heart to begin with, regardless of what your IQ is, regardless of what your income is, and all the material qualifications or differentiations relative to what you're doing or not doing, what you can do or haven't done, all of that is put aside, heart to heart. So work from that place. And then the earth then take care of things in terms of, well, I have a lot, so I can give to other people. I can afford to give some because where I come from, I have plenty, and I feel gratitude about having something at all. And then I can see I'm giving a lot to help other people have something. Okay? That's a true Christian value. See? True Christian value. Kind of a love thy neighbor as yourself. There weren't qualifications put on that kind of a conclusion. Say wisdom or method. We're talking about a method that worked for higher spirits. Say, it's coming from the heart. That's heart to heart. Say I have, you can have. We have then. And it's better that we have than just I have and you don't have. See? Because if you're at the level that, oh, I have and you don't have, and you're dead if you don't feel what not having is. Your heart is dead. See, so when you have a heart, then you feel what not having is, and you care about it, and you want to make sure you do what you can to help other people have something. See, that's what government is supposed to do. Be a means, not a controlling factor, but a means to give people. It's something to step up on and take care of what their business is. See, that's the noble path. See. That's noble. That's grace in action. That's kindness. That's wisdom. That's intelligence. See? That's compassion. Which is not competition, not competitive. Some people need less. Some people need more. Who's to say why, basically, really? And then the more should be to serve others more. That should be the rule and the basic principle behind having this. Come in.
Are there cases where war is the enlightened view?
Well, people are at war all the time. You know, the fact that it comes down to the street level of guns and bombs is an expression of the inner war, the inner conflict. A man of peace is not going to be at war. A man at peace with intelligence is going to say, we don't need war. See, we need reasonable discussions, but a more intelligent response from the heart. The heart is all people. The heart is all beings. The heart is like everyone. The heart is the universe. And we're not learning that in these times. We're not seeing that. We're not respecting that. See, we are so, undeveloped. We are so diminished, see, by programming and consumption, consumerism, see, and entertainment. We're so diminished, right? We are made victims by, being victimized by entertainment, to be less than what's up on the screen, to be less than what you see, and what everybody else is doing. And many people say, well, why should I do what so-and-so is doing it better? You're made to believe that. You don't make a difference. And that there's a problem with that. You're not reading the situation properly. You're not in touch with yourself. See? So once you get in touch with yourself, then what you move to do then is do the best you can do, regardless of what other people are doing. And this requires a certain kind of intelligence education based upon the need for developing creative beings. Not just good citizens, but creative beings who have compassion. It's not a religious thing. It is a scientific thing that has to do with improving the world. Improvement of the species. See, upgrading the species, being straight up about what it is. Then the emphasis should be on developing genius. Respecting it first. And then say, no, this is what our country is about. The development, see, and the support of genius in the arts and the sciences, everywhere. And that quality and level of genius that is really about recreating mankind by means other than destruction. See? But not destruction, but instruction. See? Reconstruction. See? Recreation. See? Kindness. Heartfelt. See, this is the function of the artist. The artist has to tell the peeps. See? Because the artist's responsibility ultimately is to recreate the world, bring beauty into it. Well, then they should be more on the political scale, saying, yeah, listen, we need more beauty, we don't need more destruction. But destruction then needs to be coexisting because it's already here with creation. And we have to neutralize the differences between the peeps through intelligent discussions, intelligent conversation, about recognizing the fundamental sameness, not the grand differences. Now, we are better. No. Before who are you better? See? Before what are you better? Your reflection in the mirror, are you better because you like the way you look? You like how much is in your wallet? What you have created because of what? The universe? So you owe it to the universe. Whatever you have, you owe it to the universe. You're lucky, you're fortunate. You should be grateful. You should share. And that should be a rule. That's a heart-to-heart process. It's a native understanding. I say so. Because I do it that way. Come on.
It brings to mind the statement that all beings are created equal.
Well, we're not going that far. We say all beings heart-to-heart have a sameness that is profound. And that transcends their necessary differences for survival. You're a created individual, you're a unique creation. So we can say the process that you're born is equal. That means everybody is born. But you're not born equal, but you're born through an equal process, the same process, differently. So you have different things to bring to the table of life because it's only in that difference, in a creative sense, and in a complementary sense that we can sort of create together in a complementary manner. So we can contribute to one another's differences, say, or lack of things that we may have more of. Say, we have an abundance of this, some have a lack of it. So it's complementary. They may have in turn an abundance of something else, we have a lack of. That's understood. This is like understanding the laws of balance. It's not mystery. See, it's not about religion, it's not about dogma, it's just basic common sense. See, perception, and we make it work. Because we need to make it work. A lot of people feel it's too late. Well, in some ways it may be too late, depending on what calendar you're on, it might be too late. The Mayan calendar says it's already over, because in other words they ran out of answers and comments. Say at that point it's over, simply because they had the skill to determine when the sun is at the center of the galaxy. Now that's a tough time, there's no doubt about it. It's like a birthday. Coming back to the center is like coming back to zero. And so that's tough because that's like a moment, maybe let's say comparable to a moment of creation and recreation, a starting point. So let's say it's a starting point. So you go to 359 and 360 degrees and zero. Boom, start again. What do you have to give up to start again? That's a good question. That's the position the earth is in right now. What does it need to change in order to restart? Because the earth, not mankind, is running the ship. And then beyond the earth, it's the sun that's running the ship on the earth. Men have to understand that. Right now, your life is controlled by solar flare activity you have nothing to do with. So the sun rules. Sun is God. So you go back to the ancients, the Egyptians, the Sumerians, and other peoples, and the natives. The sun is God. Well, now you're seeing what that means. And it's great. Scientific revelation, live. And I'd say that with poetic justice, in a sense. The light rules. And it destroys, but it doesn't destroy as much as it creates. If you're on the bad end of it, what it's creating is decreating you. That's what it's creating, a new you, a new earth, see? A new species, a new version of peeps. Maybe more informed, maybe more heartfelt, maybe more heart to heart, which is what the opportunity to end and start over again is about. Comment. And
So-
also examine your time too.
So other than for the Mayans, does this date coming up, the end of the Mayan calendar, have significance?
It's a beginning time. What do they know about what's going to happen? Which only the sun determines. Right now it's in the sun's pocket. The sun has to determine that. So the sun is scratching his beard up there. Well, I don't know about these earth peeps. We gave them a good shot now for a few million years. They haven't really produced much but problems. I'm the sun. What are they at war about? What are they complaining about? I gave them an earth. They have everything. It's fabulous planet. It's fantastic, abundant, and all whether they're just destroying it. I'm not sure I like them. Let me just, wait until the gas comes up, and I'm just going to burp on them and let them know how much I appreciate what they're doing. We hope it's not that bad. Go on.
So it seems to be, two camps in the world, people who want change. People look at changing the world and people who look at changing themselves. And so...
Well, changing yourself is one thing. That doesn't mean it's good or bad. Changing the world is another thing, but it doesn't mean it's good or bad. So the idea is to make life easier for peeps and use the abundance that the earth was given to you, us, for peeps to use. See? But there are areas of the earth, and there's never been a footprint on it. Human footprints. There are lots of areas of the earth. No trace of humans, because humans tend to focus on more cultic sort of programs. Competition. Instead of expansion and independence, and using the earth as a real training ground for evolutionary purposes, so that we're not really at the bottom of the barrel when we see a spaceship. We're not frightened by a spaceship. That's our environment. That's the field we're in. We're in space. We're in space. The earth is in space. What's the problem with seeing a spaceship when the earth is a spaceship?
And do you...
Crazy. It's cuckoo. It's mad. Go ahead.
Do you see any destiny for mankind apart from the earth or away from the earth?
Well, man is having a destiny outside of the earth completely, on the inner planes. See? If you're stuck in the body, then all you see is time. When you're stuck in the body, all you can see is the time field. You can't see the spiritual field at all. You have no sense of what that is. You can't see the universe that way. Looking through a telescope, you're not seeing the universe. You're seeing what the universe allows you to see. And so man is busy with his scientific genius trying to see inside of everything. Well, it's not seeing inside itself, so it's missing the whole point. So how are you going to know the universe if you don't know yourself? So it's one of those dog chasing the tail sort of predicaments. It's a paradox. You are the universe. So you know what the universe is. You are you. But at what level are you? Are you heart to heart, and thus in tune with the nature of the universe? Or are you just face to face, in nature of the world of ego? Comment.
So that view would suggest that the spiritual is scientific and the scientific is spiritual.
The scientific could be moving in a spiritual direction, and coincidentally a lot of the spiritual discoveries relative to quantum physics have everything to do with established spiritual understanding. From ages back, Buddha realization and so on. The science of Buddhism, which is probably the most elaborate, almost incomprehensibly scientific and technical sort of understanding of what consciousness is. So that's like the real issue. Because without understanding consciousness, forget about ideas of God or not God or whatever, without understanding what your mind is and how it works, and how the body configures into that in the universe, Earth relative to the rest of the planet, it's a system as such. You can't go far. You're stuck, you're earthbound. because that's your focus. That's why we're here, we're still on earth, because that's all we've made of our lives is the material. And of course there's a little attempt to get off the earth to try and explore that, but if you explore yourself, you can know in advance what it is you're going to find out up there. Because we are connected to that, but we do not have the training to know that we are the moon and the planets all together. That we are microcosmic solar systems. We're not taught that. Somehow you have to hear it from a poet or a mystic, a genius, a mad person, or whatever it is, a prophet, and then you hear it, then you know it, then maybe you can do something about it. But the word is the kingdom within, not the kingdom without. We have to get with that at some point. No country, no peeps have a monopoly on the kingdom within, because the kingdom within was given from before. It's not 2,000 years old. The kingdom within was built like this. The manifestation of the universe is a manifestation from the within we're afraid to look at. Once we're not afraid to look at the within, which is what human nature is a refusal to look within, so to speak, deeply within. In other words, it's the fear of facing God, so to speak, face to face or heart to heart, the reality of the great cosmic fire itself. There's a fear of that, because it's been equated with hell. And it has nothing to do with hell. Hell is born of this. Hell is heaven compared to what it is, really. It is that beyond, that incomprehensible. Then we're talking about then the plane of God, which is total incomprehensibility. Forget about it, in other words. Get out of here. Go home. Be afraid of flying saucers. Be afraid of the infinite species that are out there that are invisible, see, because they're non-physical. And you got to read science fiction to get a handle on the reality of it, like ghosts, non-physical. They're real. See? The spiritual is not immaterial. It's subtle energy. It's real. Yeah. When you go to sleep, you go into the spiritual, and you don't know what you're going into. You're going back to your source, and you don't know what that is. See? Good question. See? So we have a long ways to go as humans. We're just babies in the sandbox coming.
So is the, let's say, the inner journey always a solo journey?
It's an individual journey. I mean, you can do it with other peeps. Other peeps are on the same, some peeps are on the same kind of journey. They know it's about an inner unfoldment. Whether you're a scientist or a genius or an idiot or a pauper, a king, it's all the same. You have to sleep. You have to go into the unconscious. So we're born of the unconscious. We're born of the non-material. You come in as a conception. So we are a conception. And we have to be aware of what that is. Because as soon as you realize you're a conception, you know you're not a conception. But you seem to start there at the conception, because that's the first impulse. And we see that. Besides the universe of desire, which then shows up in a couple having the desire to copulate. See? And then you are conceived. If the timing is right, then you are conceived. That means it has to be according to law, which is amazing. It's such a seemingly chaotic universe, but it has to be according to law. The timing has to be correct. So time rules here. Kal is Lord of the universe. Forget about the God. Kal, time, is Lord of the universe. You have to see that as God first. That's the preliminary God. Because unless you transcend time, which few people can do, everybody's governed by that. You can forget about what God is beyond time. Therefore, you have words that relate to the God factor. And say you can't use. There's no word to describe it. Okay. That's being honest. Okay. There's no way to quantify it. It's the unquantifiable reality that you can't deal with. Human nature just cannot cope with it. Yeah. Can't cope with it. Yeah. It's not ready to do that. So what we can do is resort to metaphors about it and comfort ourselves. And God is a great being, He's a beautiful being, He cares for us. Yeah. That's safe. That's also true. That's because you're protected by the laws of the universe until you break those laws, and then you're done. So your blood on the floor. Okay? When you break the law, when you don't listen to the inner voice, then you walk out and you get harm. Because the inner voice is that which transcends time and can inform everybody that, hey, your day is tomorrow. If you're receptive to it. If you're not receptive to it, you're receptive to your girlfriends and your boyfriends, your kids and your work and all your distractions and your sex, your porno, your cars and everything else. So you're not really that in touch with the inner. You have to go and seek help to get in touch with the inner. Where you can find out for yourself, and everyone has a right to know, but not everybody wants to know. Not everyone wants to do the right thing to know what it is that you need to know about who you are and where you're going. So it's really about where you're going. And we know where the Earth is going because the sun is pulling it in there because it's part of the solar system. It's going right to the, we're right at the center of the galaxy. We're already there. And the organization of the Earth hasn't disintegrated yet. It hasn't been violated yet. But when it happens, it can happen in the blink of an eye and boom, everything is different. We're in nature then. We are born to be dissolved. We're born to die, and we have to face up to it and be noble peeps. Say, and take it right on the chin. Coming.
So you talk about, you know, the Cal forces, let's say, being our gods.
There's no question about that. You know, what do you have on your wrist? You have a timepiece. What do you have on your any cell phone you have? You have time. It's ruled by time. That's the only way to have people cooperate is relative to time. And it's invented because it's a fact. So we didn't really invent it. What we did was we modified it to satisfy our own purposes because they're different scales of time. Different universes have different time, different cycles. We have one system and the other universes, obviously, infinite universes that have their own. So beyond this, beyond our comprehension, that's the mystery that's frightening to conceive of. Infinity.
And yet it would seem that the gods that come from the world's religions don't seem to reflect the time as much as, let's say, the space.
What do you mean to reflect the time?
In other words, we're not taught through religion about these Cal forces and time in the way that you're bringing it
Well,
up.
there's a time for everything. Therefore, you hear it's in the Bible. I mean, you hear this, that there's a time. All of this is chronos, right? The Lord God, chronos, time. No, there's sufficient evidence of the recognition of this point everywhere. Cal, time. You don't have to call it Cal, but that's a Hindu word for it. It means Cal, Kali Yuga, time of destruction, time to pay up, and so on. Time to get it over with, time to resurrect and regenerate and recover your spiritual dignity.
So, is there a spiritual sense of time?
The heartbeat moves your body. Don't question time.
Is there a spiritual, let's say, way of manifesting time for ourselves, or does it always come through the material?
We say that the spiritual pervades the material, so you have access to no time. But that's only because of time, so time is a constant in the material body relative to this plane, and maybe the subtle planes, maybe there's less time. And there's certainly different time in other planes, no question about that. There's also different time in our plane, but it depends on what state of consciousness you're in. Okay. Because time is elastic. It can be quickened, it can be shorter. It would appear to be the perception is shorter or longer. A second can last forever, depending on how badly you're bleeding. And a day is too short depending on how good your sex is, how strong your romance is, or how good your music is, or how good your painting is, how good what's great for you is. Go on.
So are we, as spiritual practitioners, trying to get outside of time or slow time down?
You want to learn to balance time with timelessness. And respect where time comes from, which is the timeless. So you need time for material.
And this sort of comes back to the initial questions about the stages of life, which is also a reflection of time.
Yeah, but that's something that's life. Life is stages of life. It's already that. Living is going through stages of life. It's understood. Everyone in accord with the law of their time. Their time pattern. In accordance with that. Your point of manifestation. And that's because everything is in constant motion, which means everything is already in cycle. See, moving in circles. It's a clock. In other words, the universe is a time machine. Your body is a time machine. Space people use certain time machines to come in and out of this dimension. And that means this dimension as a time slot in let's say, the extension of the universe in terms of its birth and its death, which will happen.
And so
begins, ends. Go ahead.
is death...
Every beginning is an ending, every ending is a beginning. Go ahead.
Does death represent liberation from time?
Death represents liberation, not from time, but different time. Time of purification, time of recognizing you were dead, time of recognizing that now you're stuck in another world, and you had it better here, but you didn't take advantage of it. Your liberties are here. Not that this is heaven, no, this is not heaven, but you have the opportunity to bring heaven here. Happiness is here. You get caught in the interworlds, the lower interworlds, you're not in heaven. And you're going to know it because you're stuck in darkness. You say, how you got there? Well, what did you do to not get there? That's the real question. Not how you got there. You got there by being stupid and ignorant, that there was a there you were going to, but nobody told you about it. Because it's not about that. It's about, well, living your life under what? Social circumstances. Say, governmental circumstances, which is not bad. None of that's bad. Yeah. It's not bad. All of it's good if you use it properly. Yeah. Comment. Final question?
Yeah, so in light of everything we've said here, how does the spiritual practitioner use their time best, let's say?
Doing spiritual practice.
Okay.
Yeah, spiritual practice.
Yes.
Say, stopping, letting go of your self-mind, your thought patterns, because they're borrowed. You're not that, but you're deluded to think that's who you are because you completely believe you're only the body. And you have no source outside of your body, but without space you wouldn't be able to breathe. See, without oxygen you wouldn't be able to breathe. Yeah. Without flesh you wouldn't have a let's say a body, a vehicle to work through. All of this is borrowed from the earth. This is an earth body. So we're space beings in an earth body, which is a time machine. It's governed by time. It begins and ends, and it has a very, very pronounced drum beat going on called the heartbeat. Love always you.